come to the um what is it about the argument that attracted you to it?
I would say like mainly how like the existence of psychophysical harmony is something that is more like uh how do I phrase this? It's more of like it's more favored in like science and stuff. And so like and I believe that the only way like this like argument can be refuted is if you don't don't think dualism is plausible like at all. Like any form of dualism is plausible at all. And that's like a minority position with like philosophy and like just in general
Okay.
like science and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's why I got attracted to this argument.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I think YouTube is up now, right? If you that can be checked real quick. It should be.
Can you just like give me a 1 second as well?
Yeah, for sure.
I'll be right back. YouTube is up, by the way.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, nice. But yeah, I'm really interested to hear how this isn't like literally just fine tuning, but for the mind and like, well, sensations with experience and like the physical reactions. Because there's also like very strong like atheistic perspectives that I don't think necessitate like dualism. And my understanding of I need to look more into dualism, but basically my understanding of dualism is it's like you have like a non-material thing, right? That coexists with the material. So like you could like a dualist believes in like the immaterial soul and under this like framework, I mean obviously basically what like dualism is, right? Like there's an immaterial thing that lives in conjunction with the material. But you could also like just take the sense of like non-reductive physicalism, which I don't believe necessitates dualism at all. Does non-reductive physicalism necessitate dualism? Pretty sure the answer does now. Yeah.
Alright there. I'm back.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Yeah, what's up?
All right.
Alright. Sick. Awesome.
If you want to go through your arguments, we could either do it in the formalized way or like the summarized way, or like I guess however you want to present it.
I can present it like summarized, and then if you have any objections, we can take it from there. But
Sure.
actually, like this is gonna be honest, this is like my first like quote unquote like debate. So just guide me if I do something wrong,
Yeah, no worries.
if that's fine. Okay, yeah. So premise one, if classical theism is true, psychophysical harmony is antecedently more likely than if atheism is true, because a perfectly good and rational God has reason to create conscious beings whose experiences systematically facilitate rational agency, truth tracking cognition, and successful interaction with reality. That's
All right, so
premise one.
that's P1. Can I address P1?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, go for it.
so as a summarization for P1, what it's really just saying, right? All that is saying, if God exists and, you know, the classical all good, all powerful, etc. God, um,
Hmm.
God would design conscious creatures where their experiences help them with living their life essentially. So like
Yeah, it's
navigation, their
basically yeah.
emotions will like or like the experiences that they feel will be like truth tracking. That's basically all it's saying. If there is a God and that God's going to
Yeah.
create creatures, then the senses of that creatures would be truth tracking and useful.
Yeah, yeah, like he has reason to create. Yeah,
Yep. Okay.
like he has
Um.
reasons to create beings with that. Yeah, feelings that are. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Okay. So that's P1. We're going to go to P2.
Yeah. If atheism is true, then prior to learning the psychophysical laws, there's no non-ad hoc reason to assign substantially greater prior probability to harmonious psychophysical mappings than to comparably simple disharmonious mappings.
Okay. So do you want to summarize that, or actually no? Do you? I like it if I summarize it because it makes sure that I'm tracking what's being said. So I'll summarize it,
Yeah,
and
go
if you
for it.
object to it, let me know. But basically, all you're saying is if atheism is true, then there's no special reason why we would expect our mappings of like the experiences that we feel to wait. Let me actually, let me just read my formalization the way I summarize it. If atheism is true, there's no special reason to expect this mind world fit rather than like it being random or something not as useful.
Yeah, basically. There's yeah,
Okay. And then we can go to P3.
yeah. P3 psychophysical harmony exists.
Yeah,
Then
I would agree with
P4,
that. Yep.
yep, and then P4. Yeah, it's just like Bayesian. Oh my God,
Bayesian.
Bay like
It's
yeah, Bayesian.
Bayesian.
Yeah. Yeah, Bayesian, yeah. So if an observation is antecedently more probable on one hypothesis than on the other, then observing it is evidence favoring the first hypothesis over the second. Therefore, physical harmony is evidence favoring classical theism over atheism.
Okay, cool. So my first objection here is P1. So we're positing like a perfect all-knowing all these things god who we would expect these faculties to come from that, so we can start with like with our priors, like 50% chance atheism is true, 50% chance theism is true, right? Now from P1, if we're looking at just psychoharmony under theism alone, we also have to look at other things that could be in relation to God's creation, right? Because P1 is being motivated by God's creation of us. And obviously, there's more to us than like psychoharmony or psychophysical harmony. So, for example, like human design has a lot of flaws that would actually count against the idea of God creating us, and I can go into those if you'd like.
Yeah, go for it. I
Yeah,
wanna
yeah. So, are you familiar with like the problem with blind spots in vertebrates?
um I've kind of heard of it. I think it's like where you like look and then there's like I've seen it like those videos where you like kind of have like a finger and then you move your finger and then the finger becomes like invincible. Is
Yeah,
that
basically. And there's a real
okay?
reason for that. It's a flaw in our biology. I don't know if you want me to yap about like going because I can talk about that flaw, but the point is it's a real flaw in almost every single vertebrate, but this is not present in invertebrates, right? Like there's literally just no reason for it other than that's just that's just how it is. I mean, obviously, I could pop my reasons for it, but that would presuppose atheism. But ultimately, it's a flaw that exists in vertebrates, which includes humans, right? And it's not a necessary flaw. It doesn't have to be like that when we compare vertebrates to invertebrates.
Okay, so to make sure I've gotten it right, basically you're saying we also have to look at other things God created, which for example would include biological flaws like blind spots and vertebrates, and these would be like, um, I'm assuming you're saying that the existence of these biological flaws would be against the existence of God.
Correct.
Okay, let me think. Can you explain how that would be against the existence of God?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, for example, if we would posit an all loving, all knowing, all powerful God, then we would want that God to give us as much, I guess, like reasonable or like adequate senses as I guess you could intuit, right? I'm not saying that humans have to be all powerful, all sensing, or whatever. You could be a perfect being and create an imperfect thing by virtue of not having like infinite knowledge, right? But the fact that there is problems like having a blind spot, which like the reason we have blind spots is because the optic, like our retinas inside of our eyes, are literally blocked by the nerves that connect the retinas to our brain. Like literally, if you just flip the two, we wouldn't have blind spots. Okay, that would be it, right?
Okay,
So
I
like
understand.
here, right,
Yeah.
like it just wouldn't be there, right?
Yeah.
If you flip the nerves in the retinas, we wouldn't have a blind spot. And that's it. And that indicates that it counts against the idea of like a perfect creator when it's just such an arbitrary thing. Like why do we have this? It doesn't help us at all.
Uh,
We
Okay,
can also go
wait.
into things like cancer, for example, right? So like cancer is, you could say, like a natural thing, right? Cancer happens because there's some mutation in cells such that they begin multiplying rapidly. And this is something where cancer cannot exist in certain species. Like I believe some sharks cannot get cancer, right? Like their cells, I don't know what the fuck it is, but they're like basically immune to cancer. And it's like, why don't we have that? Cancer seems to be, you know, against the idea of an all loving, all powerful entity.
Okay, like even if I did grant like, for example, blind spots to be like genuine flaws, it still wouldn't follow. Like I guess it wouldn't follow with that like psychophysical harmony is unexpected under theism. My argument, like for this specific premise, like for my specific argument, it only requires that harmony is more expected under theism than under atheism. Not that God would, eliminate every biological imperfection or like have these specific characteristics of being like, for example, all loving. I would say that's kind of like I'm not saying like he's not all loving. I'm not saying that you're right. I'm saying it's kind of like irrelevant to the specific argument I'm presenting.
No, I
But we
see
can
what you're
still
saying.
discuss like all loving. Hmm.
So what you're positing, and also if you disagree with me on any things that I say, feel free to interrupt, because when people say
Got it.
something that I disagree with, then I interrupt. So I just want to make that clear.
Hmm.
You're saying that a god who is all loving and all powerful would give us these things, to which I do agree with you on that, right? I do think that that in its own is counting in favor of it, on just the concept of theism alone, right? So like not even looking to atheism, right? I think that's something that we would expect under an all powerful, all loving god. I do agree with that. However, when we're like, I guess, presupposing theism, right, we also have to look at things that count against theism. And that's why I'm bringing up like things like the blind spot, things like cancer, right? Because under an all-powerful, all-loving god, I would not expect cancer and like biological flaws in our design. So that's why I'm bringing it up. So we're granting like the probability of theism. I agree that that psychophysical harmony, I agree that would count in favor of it. But to only look at the psychophysical harmony, I think is short sighted, because obviously there's a lot more to humans than just the psychophysical harmony.
Yeah, okay, so basically, presupposing atheism, we have to look at things that account against atheism, and then we can look at, for example, things like cancer and blind spots and biological,
Theism. You
sorry,
said
biological.
atheism. You said
Yeah,
atheism. This is
yeah,
looking at
sorry, I meant theism.
theism.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, is not in favor of a all-loving God, for
Right,
example.
right.
Okay. Mm, 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 mm.
I mean, if you want
Again,
to take my, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, again, I get your point, but I feel like that's kind of separate to the argument I'm giving, and I can explain this with like an analogy. Like, let's say,
Sure.
for example, like fingerprints strongly support that a suspect was at a crime scene, but they
Yep.
also have a solid alibi. That alibi doesn't stop the fingerprints from being evidence. It just means
Yeah,
that there is competing evidence. Likewise, cancer or biologic flaws might be evidence against theism, but that doesn't mean psychophysical harmony isn't evidence for it. So,
I agree.
like,
I agree.
even if we say, okay, yeah, yeah, exactly. So this argument is specifically for like psychophysical harmony being in favor for classical theism. But then if you want to discuss, if you want to have like a debate about or like a discussion about like specific biological flaws and being non-indicative of like a all-loving God, then we can also do that if you want.
Yeah.
But if
So
but then we would have to like finish this first,
yeah.
in my opinion.
So the reason you are correct that you could have like the fingerprints, but then like they have a really good alibi or whatever. Now we have to look at what are the premises, or like I guess like what's the overall like proposition? And remember, the proposition is positing, and this is in the formalized argument because I copy and pasted what you said verbatim. It says a perfectly good and rational God, right? And I would assume that perfectly good and rational God wouldn't give us flaws like at all, because you're saying perfect, and then we have flaws, which means okay, well, it seems to be the case it's not perfect. Now, if you want to say like a really good God, right, then like I would say sure, but like it seems to be the case it's not perfect, which would um, very strongly count against you.
Yeah, I get it.
And if we want to say instead just like a really nice, good God, who is like mostly powerful or whatever, then we can do that. And then I can say, okay, yeah, someone that's not like all powerful or whatever, right? Like maybe did it. We can go off of that. But the fact that we are positing a all powerful, all loving, all knowing God, and there's flaws, that makes no sense. So that's why I've got issue with that. We can go to P2 and basically um, yeah, say that it's just like a really good
Yeah.
and nice God or
Uh,
whatever, but whatever.
I don't get how. Yeah. I understand what you mean, but I don't get why a perfectly loving God, all loving, all knowing, all powerful, necessarily aims to create creatures that are flawless. You just create people like when you say flawless, I'm assuming you would also be referring to like technically, if you want to go under the definition of flawless, that he wouldn't cause us to do anything bad, like for example, crime and stuff.
I mean, we can go into the LPOE, but when I'm talking, we're talking about in the scope of creation of like God's like creatures or whatever. And if God
Hmm.
perfectly loves his creatures and is all powerful, I would expect this all loving, all powerful God to create us such that we wouldn't have blind spots, which could easily be prevented. Like, it's totally unnecessary.
Okay.
And we see other species do not have this problem. In fact, it actually supports the atheistic evolutionary hypothesis instead, because we were able to evolve and survive despite this you could say like shortcoming or whatever, right? Is it necessary that we don't have blind spots? No, but it's possible.
Okay, yeah. I just want to test your logic there if you're consistent. So let's say we have
Sure.
like a parent that is all loving.
Hmm.
Would this parent then, like according to your worldview,
Is the
not
parent all
allow their
powerful
child
too?
to, what do you mean all powerful?
Because when
No.
we talk about God, we talk about all loving and all powerful. I think I know what you're probably about to say, but like all
Yeah,
loving
like
and all powerful, like those go hand in hand with God.
okay, so okay, we can go like one. Are you saying in conjunction? Like we can go for the all power one too as well. So I still don't see how God being all powerful means necessarily that God must create every possible perfection. Because like an omnipotent God means God can do anything logically possible. It does not mean God is obligated to create the highest possible version of like every creature and create like zero quote unquote like flaws. Right? Like a finite creature cannot be identical to a perfect God. If God creates beings who are not God, they will necessarily have limitations.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's not logically impossible, right? Like it's totally possible for a perfect God to create an imperfect entity. I agree with that statement, right? Now, my contention is what are those imperfections and like what is the justification for those imperfections being there? And something like the blind spot, I'm going to just say like is stupid when we compare it to other species that do not have it, because again it is the blind spot like problem is not there for I think every single invertebrate. Okay, like it just makes it's now it's not a total defeater, but all I'm saying is if we're going to say that psychophysical harmony counts in favor of theism, I'm saying that these other issues count against theism, or the classical sense that we're talking about here.
Yeah, I get what you mean. And I still, the argument I would make there is that God's goal isn't necessarily to be maximum biological optimization. I don't,
I
can
mean, he's
you
supposed to be
further
all loving,
explain?
right?
Yeah, he's all loving. That doesn't mean he needs to like optimize. Can you explain how that would like? So yeah, I would still give you the same argument for it's all loving, for example, with the parent, right? All loving parent that causes their or wants their child to go through, for example, a specific struggle to
Right.
experience like a higher level of growth. That doesn't mean the parent isn't all loving.
Okay,
So
if wait, you would want okay, wait. I'll say as a
yeah, I'll
parent,
give you the analogy.
yeah.
Yeah, so let's say we have an all-loving parent. Uh, an all-loving parent does not remove every difficulty or limitation from a child's life. A good parent may allow a child to struggle because of growth, learning, courage, etc. And independence, like these are valuable goods. And these same logic can be applied to God, unless you think this parent isn't all-loving.
The problem is, though, you're forgetting the all powerful part. That's the problem, right? Because here's the truth. If I was an all
Okay.
powerful, all loving parent, you know what I would do? I would just make it such that my kid can live a great, easy life, doesn't have to go through these struggles, but still comes out as like a virtuous individual who's loving to others as well. That's what I would do. I wouldn't make my child go through this unnecessary struggle.
Hmm.
You have to remember the all
And
powerful part.
yeah, so for the all-powerful thought, again, okay, let me just make sure I'm understanding this rightly. You're saying an individual that in conjunction with being one, all-loving, and two, all-powerful, uh, leads to like unnecessary, leads to like him unnecessarily causing harm.
Yeah.
Causing harm. Hmm.
We can go to P2,
And
but
therefore,
like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and therefore he isn't all-loving and all-powerful.
Or the conjunction fails. But
Yeah, and he
you
isn't.
could be all powerful but not all loving, or you could be all loving but not all powerful.
Hmm.
Unless we want to say that giving people cancer is loving, but I don't think that's something that we want to agree with.
Uh, okay, so can you explain why it's unnecessary?
Because God is supposedly all powerful, and if God wanted to, God could snap his fingers and make all cancer go away.
Yeah, so when I say unnecessary, I mean like there's no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, it would be unnecessary because God is also all loving, unless you want to posit that cancer is loving.
Hmm. Mm,
Do you want to go to P2?
yeah, we can do that if you want. I'd have to think about this one a bit more.
Sure.
Yeah, you can
Well,
start with me too.
yeah. So your P2, if atheism is true, I'll just go back to the summarization. If atheism is true,
Mhm.
there's no special reason to expect basically psychophysical harmony, um, rather than like things just happening like randomly or whatever. Yeah, can you motivate P2? Because I can think of a lot of like straightforward reasons why we would expect psychophysical harmony under atheism.
Okay, yeah, I'll first, specifically when I'm thinking, yeah, I just thought about like your first P1 response. To that, I
Mhm.
want to say, I do agree with cancer being objectively bad, but I don't think God allowing cancer to exist it doesn't automatically mean that God approves of cancer.
It literally, if God is all powerful, it literally does.
Can you explain how?
Could God snap his fingers and make all cancer go away?
Yes, he could.
Is God all loving?
Yes, yes, he is.
Does God know people have cancer?
Yes, he does.
The conclusion is that God thinks cancer is good. That's the logical conclusion from
Yes,
that.
so he can still do things. So approving of something like I would say that's like a desire as a good thing itself, but permitting something is allowing it to occur for some reason. But I'm asking you, like cancer, for example, what is you would need to argue for why cancer is caused, like the person that goes through cancer or whatever bad thing,
Hmm.
that it happens for a bad reason. Could I guess just make like a skeptical theism argument for like specifically those bad things?
The
So I'm
reason
saying like
why is cancer bad?
no, yeah, like what would you like in my
I
worldview,
mean,
I can just make the argument that it's no, so hold on. I could just make like a skeptical like theism argument. Can I not? Like, what if I just say like they going through cancer would maybe be bad in the moment, but it's net beneficial because, for example, like let's just say like, in the afterlife they get like a great reward for that for going through that. So, for example, like why is it necessarily bad?
What is if an 8-year-old gets cancer and then dies with a family who's mourning over the 8-year-old? You know,
Hmm.
like there's a world, there's a logically possible world because we're talking about God is all powerful in the scope of logical possibility. There's a logically possible world where a family gets $100,000 and their child doesn't get cancer and die. And there's also another world which is non-contradictory, or like there's another possible world where the family gets $100,000 and the child doesn't get cancer and like lives happily and shit, right? Like
Hmm.
I,
So
it's
I can just
just
make, yeah, I get your point. So I can just technically make the argument there, like for example, with the child dying, I can say that he, for example, like in the afterlife, gets greatly rewarded, whilst if he didn't get cancer, then he wouldn't get as
God
good
could
reward.
reward you greatly without getting cancer too, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, so the argument I would make there is that it's going through a struggle, and it's depending on how like faithful you are, what's going through a struggle.
Why would God have to reward you for going through struggle when the struggle that you go through is like God's own doing? So for example, that's like me saying, "Hey, I am going to burn down your house, right? I am God, I'm causing your struggle. Now that you've burnt down your house, I'm going to give you $100,000." It's like, no, like just don't burn down my house to begin with, right? Or you could just give me the $100,000 without burning my house.
Mm. So basically, like going through the struggle, do you think?
Because and this is why I love the LPOE, because we're basically talking about the LPOE, but change out evil for suffering, right? Like we're basically doing the LPOE right now, right? And this is why I love the LPOE. And LPOE just means the logical problem of evil for those who are listening. But all it posits, okay, is that the you have to, under the theistic framework, you have to then say that cancer is good. That's the logical conclusion, okay? That like,
Mm.
oh, you'll get rewarded more in heaven for having cancer, when it's like, why couldn't you just reward me equally for not having cancer and never give me cancer to begin with, right? Like these are all God's constructions and it's totally unnecessary. This is my problem with theism.
Get your point. Then why? Okay, so for example, what about like a yeah, I think I'm gonna understand your or get your response to this, but like for example, in like say we have a surgery and a surgeon is causing pain in an operation, does that mean the pain like the pain isn't necessary,
The
or
surgeon isn't
that's
all
specific?
powerful. And in fact, what surgeons
Yeah,
try to do is put people under anesthesia so they don't suffer. So even though we're not all power, like obviously, I think if anyone could, they'd just snap their finger and then make all of the diseases just go away. I think any reasonable person would do that. But like even today, we put people under anesthesia so they're not suffering. We're literally doing more than God, right? Supposedly is able to do.
um, yeah, actually don't quite know. I'm trying to think here for a bit. Um, so yeah, you're basically saying it's either that he's all loving or either he's all powerful and not both, right?
Correct. Yeah, you've got to pick
That rather it's not that certain sensations could be the way that they are, but rather that brains process information and send you signals that give you this particular sensation
Yeah, but why?
because it's what we attribute that to fundamentally.
Yeah,
Like
but
there
why?
is no other way for the
Yeah,
brain
yeah,
to
but why?
be.
No, no, there is. No, there is. There technically
How?
is, but I'm asking you.
Oh. Is it
Well,
there's a
no,
difference
so
between logical possibility and physical possibility.
yes, you can explain why the brain necessarily has to be that way. What's the like
disposition of the
explanation for it?
universe. Okay, okay,
Like
okay.
Okay, and that's fine.
Let,
That's
essentially
let,
fine.
let, let me interject. Let me interject. Let
Yeah,
me.
I think it's also a thing of language too. Is like we could say this sensation exists. Like we could say pain is what leads to certain outcomes, and just due to the way that brains exist, they like process information and they make it into what we call pain. There could be a logically possible world where we call this sensation happiness, but that does not mean that the sensation itself is any different or attributed to what happiness is in this world. Rather, that we call it pain because it is this negative sensation which rewards survival. So we things that do not allow us to survive are negative. Things that do allow us to survive are positive. It doesn't matter what we call them. It's just that way because otherwise we would never have existed. And
Yeah, so the dualism of physical truths are distinct and co-fundamental, with neither class of truths grounded in the other. Physical and phenomenal states are linked by metaphysically contingent fundamental laws of nature that specify which physical configurations give rise to consciousness in its various forms. So that's dualism. And then causal is every physical event involved in human behavior and brain functioning has a sufficient causal explanation in terms of prior physical occurrences. Together, yeah, that's that. And then together, these assumptions imply the disjunction of I actually don't know what that is, I'm gonna be honest. Epiphenomenalist and overdeterminationist dualism. I actually don't know what those two are. But again, like these aren't required because in section 3 they go over like other theories you can have that would still make this argument viable. So the only way
yeah,
this wouldn't work technically is if you have like another theory, which for example can be like I don't know if you know, but like token identity theory. And that would technically mean that the argument isn't viable, but then that would turn the debate to whether like that token identity, like TIT, is going to be more optimal and viable than the other theories, because obviously it's a very minority position again in philosophy.
okay.
So that's basically
Okay, I'm
What's
back.
the minority philosophy? Sorry, like
yeah, it's called a
non-dualism.
uh not necessarily, it's just a token identity theory. So like you don't need to believe in dualism necessarily for this argument. You just need to believe that it's like you don't like yeah, like they explain it in section 3. You don't necessarily I need to make sure I'm not wrong. Yeah, like as long as you've used some kind of dualism, at least plausible, then this would be like a valid argument. But if you don't, then like for example, the only other person I've presented this argument to, they disagree because they have like another theory, like token identity theory, and I'm pretty sure that's like it's not only like obviously a very minority position in philosophy, but uh, it would like we could technically debate if you don't adhere to these theories that the paper is going for, then we can just like debate on why you adhere to that. Sorry, why you think that other theory is true instead of the theories in the paper.
Well, I mean,
But
not
like
necessarily. Oh, sorry. You can finish.
yeah, that's pretty much it. Basically, that's what it that was it. You can go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, I would say like I really have no clue what token identity theory is personally. So like that could very well be like a different thing. But like even from what I do know, like I guess physicalist or materialist would well what would you mean by when you said phenomenal meaning or definite or something about phenomena?
Yeah, I didn't
I just
quite know. Yeah, let me Google. Okay, so token identity theory is a view in philosophy of mind stating that every single individual instance of a mental event is identical to a physical brain event, even if the general categories do not always match. Okay, so that's TIT. And then epiphenomenalist is a person who believes in epiphenomenalism, the idea that physical body and brain events cause mental states like thoughts and feelings, but those mental states have no power to cause any physical actions back. In short, the mind is a helpless passenger or side effect of the physical brain. Did that make sense for both of them?
I got the second one. Sorry, if you can run down this first one again.
Yeah,
Also,
okay.
if Ethan, if you have anything to say, you
Where's
can
the
say whatever.
yeah, where's the paper linked at again? I can't find it anywhere.
I'll send it, can I send it in general?
Yeah, that's cool. Because you sent it earlier, but I cannot locate it again.
Yeah, that's fine, no problem. There. It's the paper.
All right, there we go.
I can run down the TIT again.
All right.
Token identity
Yep.
theory is a
Oh wait,
view in
what page? What page? Or
for
are
what?
you
Uh,
referencing something straight
okay.
from the paper?
Uh, no, like TIT, no. I mean,
Okay.
just explain. Like,
Yep.
did
All
you
right, let's
hear what
go.
we were talking about earlier?
No, I was trying to find the fucking paper and make sure everything was set straight. Sorry.
Yeah, no, no problem. Yeah, basically what I said is like, the only way this argument wouldn't work is if you adhere to like, if you don't think dualism, if you don't think any kind of dualism is possible, like, okay, wait, let me make sure I'm getting this right. Um, yeah, it's a strong argument. For the only way this wouldn't be like a valid or like a good argument is for anyone who views some like no kind of dualism at least plausible. That's the only way this wouldn't be a strong argument, and then that would turn the argument into like a philosophical like argument. And an example of this would be for someone that is like, for example, we use in like token identity theory, if you know what that is. I can run down the explanation for that if you
Yep,
want.
let's do that.
Yeah, so token identity theory is a view in the philosophy of mind that says every individual mental event is identical with a particular physical event in the brain. So,
Mm-hmm.
in more simple words, a
Yep.
specific thought, feeling, or experience is the same thing as a specific physical activity in your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, if you believe in like an example of this would be like uh yeah, so token in this like theory refers to a particular single instance of something. So for example, the word dog printed in a book is one token, and the word dog spoken by someone is another token.
Yep.
They are different physical things, even though they are the same word type.
Yeah.
Similarly, pain as a general category equals to type, and your pain from a headache at 10 a.m. today is equal to a token.
Okay.
Yeah, so for example, if you think this theory, and you don't, again, like, you don't think that any form of dualism is plausible in any way, then yeah. But then we could have like because obviously that's obviously a very severe, like, minor
Where does it
philosophical
talk
position.
about token identity theory? Where does it talk about that?
Like
Does
in
it
the
talk
book,
about that in the
like in
paper?
here, no, no, that's no. So what I gave
Oh,
is just
okay,
like an
okay.
example.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
gotcha.
just
Yeah.
like an example of another thing. But
Yeah.
the paper at um major like almost every single philosopher. It's a minority position to believe that psychophysical harmony doesn't exist. But you said it
Yeah, of course.
exists, so
Yeah,
that means
yeah,
you,
I would agree with that. Yeah, sure.
yeah. So there are people that believe it don't exist, and if they don't believe it exists, then they adhere to like another theory. But if you adhere to it existing, then you would have to adhere to this like argument being a viable argument for God.
Yeah, oh, wait,
So
TIT?
yeah. So TIT, if you believe in TIT, you technically under that theory you wouldn't believe that psychophysical harmony exists. I think it's again it's obviously
What?
it's very
How
odd.
does that
It's very
necessitate
odd.
that?
Uh,
I have no idea
Actually
how it
forgot his.
necessitates that.
I actually didn't quite understand either, because the person that had he give like an explanation.
Token identity theory.
Yeah, yeah, they don't believe.
Identity
Yeah, it's
theory
crazy. Yeah, you can Google it. They don't believe in like psychophysical
mutually
harmony,
exclusive to psychophysical harmony? How would
but
it
they do
be?
technically have like a reason for that.
It says no. Well, at least let me punch it. Let me consult with the council. And with the council, I mean a bunch of AI things and then look it up on Google.
Really? Give me that.
Yeah, one second.
Council? Is it like a website?
No, that's just a meme that I do. In other words, I just punch it in Perplexity, I punch it in Grok, I punch it in Gemini, and then I punch it a lot of times in
Yeah.
like just a
Yeah, you can
Google
check. But
search.
if you believe that psychophysical harmony exists,
Yeah, everything
then you
is
would have to
saying
like.
everything is saying no, they're not mutually exclusive.
What do you mean?
So like if just to make sure I'm tracking, you said that if you believe in token identity theory, that means you do not believe in psychophysical harmony, right?
Yeah, you usually don't believe. Yeah, usually.
Okay, well it says
Well,
they're
I
not
don't know.
mutually
I don't know about
exclusive.
like every. I don't know like every person. No, so I can give the explanation for why they don't believe. I don't know what your AI did specifically.
I mean, it's all for Perplexity, Gemini,
The
Grok,
big four.
regular Google basic ass AI overview. They all say they're not
Big
mutually
four.
exclusive.
It's interesting. I don't think that's
Yeah, like
correct.
I would actually feel like they would go intertwined. Like the idea of token identity theory, like I'm listening to that. I'm like, yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
there's
It
actually like
sounds
a
like
video.
it's like
Yeah, I'll send a
yeah.
video. There's a like very 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 good video.
Token
You
identity
should watch this
ensures
video.
that individual mental events are identical to physical events. That's token identity, and let me find something better. But
But I feel like it's kind of irrelevant here. Like as long as you believe psychophysical harmony exists, then this argument still applies. But I'm pretty sure like so the person that I was talking to, like who's like
yeah, Carter.
dude, he's insane.
Oh, wait, who?
No, no, not no. I'm talking to I use this argument for another like guy. His name
Oh,
is
okay, sure.
dude. He's like uh if you think you're a mirror good dude, that guy is like actually like insane, like theologically and like philosophically. He's like 40
Yeah.
years old, and he said, yeah, like he's an atheist, but the reason he doesn't like the only reason this wouldn't be valid is because he doesn't believe psychophysical harmony exists, which in my opinion is kind of crazy. But obviously, like it's still a theory. There isn't like any objective proof. And then he
Yeah.
said it was because he adheres to like TIT.
Yeah.
So
But I
so yeah.
mean, okay, I guess to like, because we're still on P2 after all this time,
Mhm.
but like, basically, all I'm
Well, P2's like
positing,
the
yeah.
other the other There's no way you like don't believe in like Bayesianism, right?
No, of course I
Or
believe it. Yeah, of course, of course, of course.
okay,
So like
okay, yes, then
P3,
the
like
P2.
I agree with P3, and then P4 obviously sure. So like my critiques are P1 and P2, which I already gave my critique of P1. We
Yeah.
went over that, and like cancer and shit. Which now you have to concede that cancer is good, under the
Yes.
classical theism view, which is insane
Yes.
to me. But then P2,
Yeah.
you're saying I'm not motivating something when that's not the case. I genuinely I have no idea
Yes.
how it's not sufficient. I seriously have no idea how it's not sufficient. What,
I'll try
give
my
me.
best to explain it again. So you're saying that it just is because it is, and that's fine.
Wait, wait,
And
wait,
you're
wait,
saying
wait,
that
wait, we say it is. It is. Okay. What is the mapping of psychophysical harmony, right?
yeah,
And when we say the mapping of it, say give me an example of that.
like the mapping that again in the first I gave examples before. I'll do it again. Allow
Yep,
me
yeah,
the
just one more
explanation
time.
again.
Yep, just one more time.
Yep. So conscious beings whose experiences systematically facilitate rational agency, truth tracking
Oh,
cognition,
okay,
and
okay.
successful interaction with reality.
Right. Now, I've given why the agents that exist today, I've said why they have those, but you're not accepting that.
No, you said no, you didn't. You didn't say why. You said you explained basically what you explained is because they have these mappings, it led to them surviving and existing. That's what
Yeah,
you've been
yeah,
explaining.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, wait. Because they had them, yes. Now, there are
Yes, that
things
doesn't
that did
explain why.
not evolve them, and they didn't live. So obviously, we don't see
Yeah,
those.
but yeah. So still, you need to explain why.
Because mutations.
Yeah. So okay. Basically, your argument. Let me make sure I'm understanding this like fully
Mhm.
correct now.
Right.
So, I'll write it down as well. Psychophysical harmony. The reason for it existing is because we continued on surviving.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Psychophysical harmony, it is a prerequisite to survival of advanced organisms. It is conducive
I
to
agree with you.
surviving.
I agree with you, and I agree with that part. Now the
If
thing
you want
is,
to ask why does psychophysical harmony exist, exist like in total, then the answer is due to genetic mutations.
no, not
Okay.
that. No, no, pause. Hold on. The question
Hmm.
is why was the mapping built out like this? You're saying it's built out like this because we survived? No, that's a consequence of it being built out like that.
Okay. Wait. Okay. Yeah, I agree. Okay. I see that. Yes, that I agree with. Okay. Sure. I agree.
Mhm. Yeah. So exactly. So if you can, so the theism like has like an argument because God is perfectly good and rational. What would the atheistic reason be?
Mutations slowly happened, and mutations are the brute fact, right? And the
Yeah. Why?
mutation.
The brute fact. Why?
You
It's a
just
brute
what
fact.
do you do? You just told me to explain a brute fact. Brute facts are brute facts.
No,
Like,
no,
why
no,
does
no,
God
no.
have God's will? Because God has His will. Like, you have brute fact. What do you mean?
Okay, okay. So your argument is that it's a brute fact that that it should exist or that it exists. I don't. Sorry.
The things that explain it, like when you go down to explaining literally anything ever, you get to brute fact eventually, unless you take an
Yeah, of course.
infinitist view. But like at some point, we run into brute fact, and the brute fact that I'm positing is mutations happen. That's it.
If I'm quite satisfied with this.
Do mutations not happen?
No, they happen, but that gives an explanation for how organisms change. right?
Yeah,
That's not
that's right.
addressing the specific question I had about.
But we know that when organisms change, those changes either A are conducive to survival or B they're not, right?
Yeah, again, this is still a consequence. So okay,
I
I'll
guess
repeat the question again. So why do the conscious experiences associated with those physical states, like okay, let me formulate the question better.
I gotta go real quick, but I just want to throw out what I'm thinking I'm hearing from Ethan. If I like totally fuck it up, he can just say, "Yeah, you're totally not getting what I'm trying to say" before I go. But basically, I
You're
think
good,
what he means is like, so evolution is indiscriminate and random. I mean, we all like can agree on this, right? So it's
Mm,
evolution occurs. There is a massive amount of time that evolution takes place over. Um, Certain things develop, and due to cognition we have up intake and output. In terms of cognition, we naturally develop senses. These senses correlate to certain things, and because we are all related to each other, we naturally experience things in the same way. However, this would not necessarily mean that everybody has the exact same sensation directly, but I also think it is worth considering the fact that we communicate with each other and we attribute bad and good with certain sensations. So let's say, for the sake of argument, maybe psychophysical mappings can be, I guess, unharmonious, maybe, but or a different way that is still conducive to survival, right? Maybe let's say somebody feels pleasure touching fire, but for some reason that we may not be able to directly say, they still avoid it because it's conducive to survival. We naturally interact with each other and we describe this thing because let's say we have come up with the word and language for what pain is. So all of these people could experience things that are pleasurable to one person or painful to another, but we all call them pain necessarily because that is what we describe it as. So we all fundamentally share the same psychophysical mappings, even if I were to grant that, or well, we don't necessarily share the same psychophysical mappings, even if I grant that we don't have to, but we all still describe the sensation the same because we deem things that are painful or negative with not surviving and things that are positive and good with surviving, no matter how much you enjoy or dislike certain things, even if we were to say those things are not necessarily the same as what is survival promoting, I guess, is what maybe I would say.
mm, yeah.
I like it.
But
Yeah.
fill me in on this
Still.
when I'm done. This is very nice and very cool. I'm gonna go get lunch because I haven't eaten. But yeah, good
I
luck,
got you, bro.
Yeah,
guys.
go
Have
for it.
fun.
Yep.
It was
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
man.
nice.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Yep.
Thanks for your input. How many Ethan, how many like viewers do you have? I'm just curious.
Well, dude, like there's now it looks like my internet's good again now, but like I don't know. I don't know,
What
bro.
do you
Like
average?
average right
So
now
you're
I've just been doing research streams, so like basically nothing, but like when I post stuff on like Instagram, like TikTok and stuff, those
mhm.
get
Yeah,
anywhere
those are pretty
between like
good.
a
Yeah.
few dozen thousand views to like hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions.
That's
But
good.
my live
Yeah, that's good.
streams. Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so to answer you, I agree. Like, okay, I agree. Mutations and evolution can explain why like certain physical traits and behaviors are selected for. Okay, so still back to the,
Yeah.
where we were like a half an hour ago.
Yeah.
My question is still, what explains the relationship between physical states and conscious experiences is systematically arranged in a survival and through conductive way rather than a different possible mapping? Why is it like that? You're saying why because otherwise we would have died. Like again, that's a consequence of how it currently is. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
explain why. Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, then the answer to that is just through genetic mutation. That's the reason why.
I feel like that's just like
No, that's a fact, right? I mean, like the
yeah, but
the
that doesn't
thing that
explain why. That's a consequence of why. That's a consequence of it already
no, you're
existing.
explaining what creates psychophysical harmony, right? That's what you asked me. Like, why does psychophysical harmony exist, right? That's what you asked me.
No, no, I'm asking you what is the reason for why it exists?
Yeah, what is
Like
the
what is the reason?
reason for why it exists? Like, what is the reason for its existence? Okay,
Yes.
mutation. That's a fact. Now, if you want to ask me
Honestly.
what causes life, I mean, like we've been able to
Why?
replicate life, like with the spud cell, because I mean, like,
Like
you,
again, uh not satisfied with this because okay, I'll say it again.
Bro, I mean that's the
Mutation
answer.
explain.
Like I don't know.
No,
I don't know
no,
what to tell you.
no. Okay, okay. Look, I'll explain to you once again. Okay, mutations explain changes in biological structure.
Mm-hmm.
But how does mutation explain why a physical state is connected to a particular conscious experience at all?
Wait. When we talk about the physical state, that's in relation to the structure, right?
In relation to the
So,
structure?
so like for example, if there's like a
What
bunch
do you mean?
of sadness chemicals in my brain, I'm gonna feel really sad, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when we talk about mutations to the structure, obviously that's going to map onto our psychophysical harmony because the psychophysical harmony is dependent on our structure, right?
Mm. So you're basically saying psychophysical harmony is dependent on our structure and mutations change our structure.
Yes. Why mutations happen? Brute fact.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind that.
There. That's it.
Oh. So the first thing I'm thinking of is like, okay, first, like, okay, I agree that like obviously psychophysical, I grant the first part, like psychophysical harmony is dependent on our structure, like biological structure. I
Right.
agree to that, and I agree to like mutations can change our biological structure. Obviously, I agree to that. Okay, that's an explanation for the physical side of the relationship.
Right.
But can you explain? Okay, yeah, that's three things I've granted now. Now the fourth one, it does not explain why a particular physical structure is connected to a particular conscious experience in a way that is harmonious. It does
Okay,
not
so
explain
now
that.
we've gone to the hard problem of consciousness. Because I remember
Yeah,
I
so
kind of
okay,
asked that before. That you're
I don't
kind
know.
of going on to
Maybe.
because now you are. I think
Can I
what
give an
this is going to
example?
reduce down to. Yeah. So you're talking about why does it map on to this experience, right? And this
Yeah, so for
experiential.
example, yeah, imagine two creatures with identical nervous systems. Expect creature A is touching fire, pain, withdrawal. Creature B is touching fire, pleasure, and approach. Both could have evolved structures. The question is, what explains why our type of structure produces the first mapping rather than the second? You say that
That
it's because we
presupposes that
survived.
never happened in evolution. You're presupposing that never happened.
What, like the that we have creature B, for example?
Yeah. So like creature B could have existed. It's logically possible. And then you know what happened? Creature B was like, oh boy, fire, and then it died. Like creature B is totally logically possible thing, right? In fact, I would be willing to bet my life we can find certain species, right, that died simply because of inefficiencies in the mutations that it evolved. Well, obviously that's going to be the case,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, that's obviously going to be the case, and obviously something like um, psychophysical harmony was one of those things that was present in creatures that didn't end up dying. Now, what causes these things to happen? It's going to be by evolution. But we're
Yeah,
just
again, okay.
presupposing, yeah, we're just
Okay, we're
presupposing
going
that
back to
never
square
happened
one
in the
here.
other one.
Yeah, so I agree with you that their creature B's mapping, I'm not saying that, they couldn't have existed. They definitely could have existed.
They
Okay?
did. They
Well,
did.
yeah, okay, they existed. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, but it dies, right? That's a
Yeah,
consequence of the mapping. That shows the
that's
mapping
right.
matters, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why does it happen that the other for creature A, that their mapping happens to line up?
Because it's random. Okay, okay. If we flip a coin, okay, we've got a group of people, okay, and every time, for each person, we flip the coin, and heads, we blow their brains out, and then tails, we let them go, right? It's like, yeah, the ones that landed on heads freaking died because of the
Yeah, okay.
dispositions of
And
the
that's fine.
circumstance,
That's fine.
right?
You can have that as an explanation, but you understand from like a bit Bayesian, oh my God, Bayesian like framework that is an inadequate explanation compared to the
Absolutely not.
theism side.
Absolutely not. Because when we look at my worldview, it's actually taking into account the species that did develop these inefficient mutations and ended up dying because of it, right? Like that's literally to be expected under the atheistic worldview.
So you're accepting like a brute contingency. Yeah,
The
you're
brute
right.
fact is mutation, right? We're not contesting
So
that. But
yeah,
what I'm
so
saying is
you're basically
both
saying
possibilities
that,
happen.
yeah, yeah. So you're saying that you're conceding to that the universe just happened to have psychological mappings that line up with survival, right? Like there's no deeper reason. It's just random. Like it just happened to be that way,
Well,
right? That's your
no.
conclusion.
What's saying it's just random that it happened? That's not correct.
Okay, how's that not correct?
Mutations,
No, you literally said
mutation.
no,
No,
no.
no,
That's a
no. You're
consequence. That's
equivocating.
still a
Oh my
consequence.
god.
That's
Oh
still
my.
a mutations are a consequence. Do you still not understand how they're a consequence?
The mutation is a consequence. No, the
Yeah.
psychophysical harmony is a consequence of mutations. No, we just agreed to that.
No, but you said it's random. So how is
No,
it
the
a consequence of a mutation
mutations
if it's
are
random?
random. Okay, wait,
No,
wait,
so
okay,
no,
okay.
no, no.
Well,
So
okay,
you're
I'm sorry. The
saying it should be
psychophysical
a
harmony
random.
of the things that survive, that's not random. Because the things that are conducive to survival are going to be conducive to survival, and it is necessary the case that those things are conducive to survival.
Yeah,
Is
correct. But that
necessarily the
still doesn't
case.
answer the question. Correct. It doesn't answer the question. That literally doesn't answer the question.
Okay, wait.
This is why you don't
The
need a reason.
no,
You can just concede to premise two.
no, I'm not conceding to it because okay.
So what's the
We
reason?
need to make this super clear because the reason why it's not random is that there's an objective criteria for life, okay? And that objective criteria, you could say, is a disposition. Like, why does carbon life need oxygen? Okay, it just is what it is. Brute fact, okay?
Okay, yeah,
Whatever
hold on,
reason.
hold on. I'll stop you there. I'll stop you there. I'll stop you there.
Sure.
Because you're saying, okay, because of life existing, right? That's your reasoning.
Yeah.
Why couldn't the psychophysical mapping have been another way that would have caused life not to exist?
Okay, so now you're asking me to explain why do we have life?
No, no. I'm
That's
asking,
what you're
yeah, no, that's not what I'm asking why the mapping could have been another way. Why couldn't it have been another way?
Wait, who
Why
said it hasn't? Because the things that did it died. Like, you're presupposing that there are not other species that had bad developments in the mutations.
Because you're saying that there are other people that had other psychophysical mappings,
Other
but they
people?
died.
No, other people, no.
No, sorry,
Not
yeah,
other
other
people.
organisms, sorry.
Correct, yeah,
So
and then they died,
you're
yeah.
saying other organisms had other psychophysical mappings that causes them to die, and then there are others that has psychophysical mappings that lined up with survival, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just, and the reason for that is the universe just happened to have it that way.
Happen to
Right?
have mutations, okay? So the
That,
two, I guess if you
okay,
want to
just
introduce two brute facts, there's the brute fact of the requirements for survival, so things like oxygen, okay? Like why do we need why do we need all the, like, it just is what it is, okay? So the requirements for survival are brute fact, okay? And then mutations, you could say, are like your second brute fact, right? So
so the answer to your question
yeah.
is, to answer the question I asked, that the
Mhm.
universe just happened to have psychophysical mappings line up with survival, is yes. It's a brute fact, it just happened to be that way. Yes.
I mean, if you want to reduce it down to all that, right? But yeah, that's the core premise, sure.
Okay, then you can see to my point that you're saying
No, you're in the
harmony is not
exact same
expected.
stance. You're in the exact same stance.
How? Because you're saying it's not expected or explained underneath atheism. It's just a simple lucky fact that's how we worked out to be. You just said yes to all of that I asked. That means you're conceding to my point. You're conceding to the premise that it's not expected or explained. It's just a simple lucky fact. And we could have had
Dude,
it be
we
another
all
way.
have brute facts, bro. Every single worldview has brute
No,
facts.
hold on. You, I'm not. Okay, wow. We're really getting okay. Again, that's fine. I'm not saying that it's not a brute fact. We can say that it's a brute fact that it's lucky. Okay, we can say that it's a brute
What do
fact
you
that we
mean?
luckily have to.
Okay.
Because we could have actually had it be the other way, where we had a mapping. Okay, you still haven't given a reason to why mapping couldn't have been another way and life couldn't have existed. Your reason for that is the consequence of why life existed. So
Life,
that still concedes the point.
the
Prior to
evolution
learning
of
these laws.
the evolution of life necessitates that the evolution is in accordance with its survival. Now, the
Actually,
necessities for its survival are gonna be whatever the fuck. Like, maybe instead of inhaling oxygen, it's inhaling mustard gas. Okay, like maybe that would have been the thing. All that matters is there is a thing that is required to sustain life. Okay, that's gonna be the case. Okay,
yeah,
or
again,
yeah,
you brought
and
up a great
that could
point
be
there.
whatever the fuck it is. Okay,
You brought up a great point there, right?
yeah,
You're saying that, like, for example, we could have been breathing in mustard gas instead of oxygen, okay?
yeah.
And you're saying that we could have, for example, you're saying that we could have, or
It's
sorry, that we did
logically
actually find.
possible. It's logically
Yeah, you're
possible
saying
for
that
that world to
we
exist.
actually did have creatures that, for example, touched fire to found pleasure and then, like, went into it. You're saying that we do have creatures that are that way.
What I'm
Okay.
saying is there are creatures that evolved negative things that are conducive towards its survival, or
Yes.
the things that
Okay.
are
And you're saying that
not
they're
conducive towards its survival. So like, that would be like an obvious thing, right? Like there are creatures that
yes.
evolved towards the path that we have today, and there's creatures that did not evolve towards that path, which obviously would die out, right? But the idea that those creatures didn't exist would be confused.
Yeah, I'll try and write this up in like a premise 1, 2, 3
Sure.
conclusion type of. Yeah. So premise 1, there are creatures that had an unideal biological state, and there are creatures that had an ideal biological state.
What was the that had an ideal and a what?
Ideal biological state.
Ideal and what else?
Biological state.
That had a
So like
biological state and an ideal biological state.
yeah, so there are creatures that
Okay.
have, or sorry, had or have, yeah, whatever, an unideal biological state, and
Oh,
there are creatures
unideal.
that have.
Got you. Okay.
Yes,
Yep.
so creatures that are unideal and creatures that are ideal.
Yep.
Ideal, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Premise 2. Oh, let me think. I want to formulate this.
We'll go into closing after this, and then we can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't even know if we want to do the LPOE since like we basically did the LPOE like for like half an hour in
Yeah,
in P1.
we did, and we did, and you're saying it's absurd. That's just like your intent. Anyway, okay, yeah, I asked AI to give like the formulation for this like argument right here.
Okay.
So
Yep.
P1, there are multiple logically possible ways that physical states could be mapped to conscious experience.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. P2, under atheism, the fundamental psychophysical mapping is not selected by any prior rational intention toward truth tracking, survival, or successful agency, the contingent fact of the universe.
A
That's what you
contingent
said.
fact? Wait. Oh, as in like in the sense that it's random.
Uh,
Hold on,
do you
maybe
know what contingent means?
copy and paste the thing in chat. It's probably just gonna be easier.
Yeah.
Just let me read it. Okay, yeah. So you said no, not
Contingent.
that one. Oh yeah. Okay, so under you said we're on P2?
Yeah, P2. Yeah.
Okay, so under atheism, the fundamental psychophysical mapping is not selected by a prior rational, torture, survival, or successful agent. It is a contingent fact of the universe. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's random. I would agree with some level of contingency, sure.
Yeah,
Again,
okay.
you could
So
hold the necessitarian view, but I'll agree with contingency. P3, if a feature is a contingent fact with no prior reason favoring it over equally simple alternatives, then observing that feature provides less expected evidence for that hypothesis. No, I don't think I necessarily agree with P3 because I could just hold that like contingency necessarily
wait,
exists.
what do you not agree with?
P3.
What do you not agree with?
If a feature is a
what
contingent
exactly?
fact, well, yeah, but now we're presupposing that like. Let me go through it. Let me make sure I'm understanding it. Psychophysical harmony is a contingent mapping that happens
if you agree
to align.
to P1 and P2, you need to agree to P3.
Yeah.
Unless you're disagreeing with like Bayesianism.
Yeah, no. That's
Which
why
you're not.
I finished reading it. I was because I think that contingency is a necessary fact about
Yeah, so it's a fact.
reality.
It's still a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a fact. So do you agree with P3?
I believe so, yeah. Psychophysical harmony is a contingent mapping that happens to align conscious experience with survival and reality.
You agree with
Yeah.
that one?
Well, wait, actually, no. Wait, when we say
What?
psychophysical harmony is a contingent. Okay, when we say, okay, if it has to land on heads in order to live, right? If I'm flipping a coin, right? It's contingent. It could have landed on tails, but the fact of the matter is, the prerequisite of landing on heads is necessitated, right? So P4 is okay. When we say it's a contingent mapping, I agree it could have been otherwise, but to pretend that it happens to align with conscious, like you have to have some mapping that's conducive towards your survivability. Like there are things that are conducive and there are things that aren't. So I'm
So you're saying that our mapping changed. Well, yeah, then it's contingent. If you're saying the mapping changed
yeah. But
because
what's
of
not contingent is the requirements for survival. Survival. That's not contingent.
uh, uh, uh,
We're gonna go to closing soon, because
yeah,
we're beating a dead horse.
yeah, exactly. Okay, then I'll change. Sure. Yeah, okay. I'll change it to P4 to this then. The specific relationship between physical states and conscious experience is not logically necessary. Alternate mappings are conceivable.
No, I would reject. Okay, like it is necessary for survival. Which obviously you don't survive, then that species does not continue, right? So I agree that the mappings that come out like could be another way, right? But obviously the mappings that are not conducive towards survival, which again that happens randomly through reproduction, right? Then those obviously are not going to continue going. And we see species that evolved bad traits and then they died. And a bad trait obviously would be being, oh, fire good, and then you kill yourself, right? Obviously that would be the case. So like no, there's a necessary set of facts that are needed for survival. So no, I still reject P4. Injury playing like yeah, the specific between physical states and conscious experience
Okay,
is
do you
not
understand?
logically
Yeah, again,
necessary. I
we're
reject
back
that.
to
I reject that entirely.
square. We're actually back to like square, like where we were like an hour ago, because you're saying you're confusing biological necessity and psychophysical necessity. You're saying
Bro,
it's necessarily biologically. You're saying it's biologic. You're saying it's biologically necessary because we survived. You're not explaining why it's psychophysically necessary.
no, let's go to closing.
Okay. Do you want to finish here?
I'll give my closing statement, and you can give your closing statement. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've just
Just
had.
do it on this matter. Just do it on this specific.
Okay, well, then I'll do this and then a close because we'll both get a close. So I'll address this. You can address me on what I say, and then I'll give my closing, and then you give your closing. How's about that?
Okay.
Okay. So P4, right? The specific relationship between physical states and conscious experiences. So that means the experience, okay? The experience
Psychophysical harmony.
yep. Now I don't want to use that word because I don't want to equivocate anything, okay? The
Okay. Okay.
experience, the phenomena, right, of pain. Okay, there is some experience that occurs such that I'm at dispositions to be to avoid having that experience again, and then we just call that pain. Okay, now what that pain comes in the form of, right? What that experience looks like could literally be anything, such that it produces the same physical effect where we want to get away. There is a necessary set of conditions required for a species to survive. Okay? That's a brute fact. Okay? And my interlocutor would agree that's a brute fact too, because like why not God just make it so we can all breathe everything and we don't have to worry about like survival, like whatever. Like it's a brute fact that whatever the case may be, okay, there's a certain set of criteria necessitated to survive. Okay. Now, life happens. How life happens, we could. I'm not ready to fucking debate on. We're none of us are, but life happens, and cells replicate. Okay. Now, through that replication, there is mutation. Mutation is another brute fact that both me and my opponent have to agree with. The difference is my opponent believes that it's coming from God, and me, I just say it's a brute fact of the universe. Now, it is the case that species evolved things that are not conducive to their survival. And all evolution is that mutation, that random mutation that happens on reproduction. Okay? That's all that is. And that's a brute fact. And through brute fact of these mutations, we get the fact that random like evolutions are going to occur through those mutations. Some of those are good for your survival, which is a necessary precondition. The ones that were not conducive to survival ended up dying. And it is the case that
Yeah, so
psychophysical
again, that's
harmony
you're
yeah.
explaining how it's biologically necessary. You agree that it's biologically necessary, right?
Yep. Biologically
Okay.
necessary. Yep.
Okay.
Or at
You're
least
not
it's
explaining.
conducive to survival.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with that. But you're not explaining why it's psychophysically necessary. Are you saying it's psychophysically necessary because it's biologically necessary? Because then you
Wait, when
you're
you say
conceding
it
to
is
the fact,
psychophysically necessary, what is the it you're talking about?
like the harmony.
The harmony?
You're
Yeah,
you're
it
explaining why the
is.
harmony is
Yeah,
biologically necessary. You haven't explained why the psychophysical harmony is necessary.
it is
Why it's a
necessary.
necessary. Yeah, you haven't yeah, so
Well, truth is, it's not okay. If we're not talking about survival, then it's not necessary. But obviously, you're not going to survive.
it's
That's
not
it.
necessary.
Yeah, it's not necessary, and
It's
then you
not
die. That's it.
okay, so if it's not necessary,
Like
then you don't have
for the things that don't have it, then they die. So you could have an entity that doesn't have it, and then it dies. Obviously, like, but I've already said it like 5 billion times. But
okay, and
that's
and
basically
you're saying that the reason why not everyone has that is because like brute fact or like randomness.
not everyone have. What do you mean?
Yeah, like not you're saying that you agree to me that like it is enough psychophysical necessity because there are organisms that have like a non-harmonious one, right?
Yeah. Like there exists organisms, right, that did not evolve psychophysical harmony, or at least there did. I don't, like, do they exist now? I would imagine probably not, but I don't know, right?
So you're agreeing that it's not a necessity psychophysically.
Is it when you mean psychophy? Are you talking about like it's not necessary biologically?
No, not biologically. I'm saying psychophysically.
Psychophysically, the harmony is not necessary.
Yes. Is the
Yeah.
harmony
I would agree that that is not necessary. But the things that, but well, it's not necessary for the organism to exist, but it is necessary for the survival.
okay. So you're agreeing with okay, so that means you're agreeing with P4. If you're saying
The
it's not a psychophysical necessity.
between physical
Because again,
states and
you
conscious
need to
experience is not
distinguish.
logically necessary, but that it's
You just
necessary
said
for
you just said it's
humans.
not
It's necessary
necessary.
for anything to propagate itself.
Okay,
Because
but
this,
just
I can't
answer
do it.
the you just said it's not
I
a
can't do it.
psychophysical necessity. You said it's a biological necessity, and I agree with that because we others otherwise wouldn't have lived. But you haven't. You conceded to the fact it's not a psychophysical necessity because we do have organisms that don't have this psychophysical harmony. So you do agree with P4 then, right? You understand that you do that. Agree with P4. Like
No, I'm checked out,
I
bro. I'm
just
checked
explained
out.
how you do. I just
I'm checked out,
explained how
bro.
you did.
I'm checked out. Look, if you have an organism with like no psychophysical harmony, right? No psychophysical harmony exists, right? It's like an amoeba, right? It does some stuff, and then it makes two offspring, right? One of those organisms that it makes, okay. I'm sorry, both of those organisms have psychophysical harmony, right? Okay, so this amoeba, it makes it two organisms. Now, organism A has no psychophysical harmony and fucking dies. Organism B does have psychophysical harmony, and the reason why they have these is through the brute fact of mutations just happening. Like
Okay,
there's
so
nothing else to
okay,
talk about. That's
again,
it. That's it. I
again,
mean
again.
that's it. That's it.
No, again, you're explaining why it's biologically necessary because they wouldn't live otherwise. Okay, so that's the biological necessity done, and it's obviously necessary because we wouldn't live otherwise, and we live. We obviously live. You're not understanding. You're not understanding.
Maybe you're not,
I just
bro. I don't there's nothing else. Like we have gone
no,
like even
you
below like the ground. We're not even in the
no,
surface anymore.
no.
We're
I'm
like in
agreeing
the
with you.
core of the earth.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. You're. Oh, I actually don't know how to like formulate this better. You go
I don't
look at
know
something on the
either.
screen. Go look back on the stream. Do you know how many times I've asked the question? Like, I've asked it over 15 times. You're explaining why it's biologically necessary because we live, and if it wasn't biologically necessary, we wouldn't have lived. And I agree with you. I agree with you. You haven't explained why it's. You do agree that it's not a psychophysical necessity, though, right? And if you say it is, because we wouldn't have lived otherwise, that's a non-ad hoc reason. Okay? It's dependent, right? We can go back to the dice example, where you only say it's necessary after we see the facts, not before.
Wait, no. I can reject this. I can reject this entirely, okay? Imagine it is the case where you are able to inductively look, okay? Like you've got another population, okay? You have another population. This is why this is not analogous. You have every thing on the planet, okay? Upon its creation, you roll a dice, okay? And then you get to see the dice, what the dice roll was for each one. And then you notice every single one that rolled one got its head blown off by God's shotgun, okay? Now, you're positing, oh, wow, like, coming to this conclusion now is like ad hoc. Like, yeah, if we rolled a one, we'd be dead. So we never would have came to the thing anyway. So of course that's going to come ad hoc, obviously, right? Because if we rolled a one,
so
then
it's
we've
not
gotten our
an
shotgun,
agreement.
we've gotten our head blown off. But yeah,
You're
let's
literally agreeing with
close.
the premises when you say that. Okay, yeah, yeah. I don't know what like a closing statement is. I don't know what to like say.
Yeah. I'll give my closing statement, and then you can give yours.
Yeah,
So
go.
P1 was. I'm just gonna kind of put a blunt and say it was an absolute blowout. My opponent had conceded that cancer is good. An all-powerful, all-loving God, gives little children cancer, makes their family
By the
suffer,
way, that
all these
wasn't even part
things.
of my premise.
No.
It
But
says
you have to
good and
accept it.
rational.
You have to accept it.
No, it says rational, not all loving. All loving isn't part of my premise there. So we
Right.
can,
No,
for the
but you're
sake of
talking about
argument, yeah,
dude.
sure.
Classical theism is the all-loving, all-powerful God. It also says that now.
Yeah, those are irrelevant. Yeah, I'm saying the attributes that are necessary is
And also
perfectly
says
good and
perfectly
perfectly
good.
rational.
Your P1, like if we're talking about like the original one, it literally says perfectly
Yeah, you
good.
don't have to be all loving to be perfectly good, do you?
What?
No, like for the sake of argument. For the sake of argument.
Fuck are you talking about? Okay, wait. You're telling me you can love and not be good? Like I can love you but also not be good to you? Like what?
No, I'm saying you can be good without necessarily being like. Okay, yeah, you just continue.
Okay. So a perfectly good God gives kids cancer, which means giving kids cancer to some degree, according to my interlocutor, is good, which is fucking insane. Okay, I want to make that very, very, very clear. And posits that all these really weird, awful things are all just part of God's plan. Okay, which obviously is fucking insane. Now,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
either way, though,
okay, yeah,
well, this is the closing, and you can address all the things I'm saying in your closing. But he had to concede that. Okay, it's the conclusion to classical theism. Now, however, it is correct that if there is an all-powerful, all-loving God, we would expect that that perfectly good God to give us ways to interpret the world. I agree with my interlocutor on that point. So like that, while we do accept the things that count in favor of theism, we also have to look at things that count against theism, right? And there's obviously, there seems to be very intuitive reasons to count against theism, or classical theism. But in P2, my opponent is saying there's no ad hoc reason to assign substantial greater prior probability, okay, to harmonious psychophysical mappings, etc. Okay. Now, when we say ad hoc, the answer necessitates ad hoc. Because if our psychophysical mappings, right? So like when I experience pain, like what if instead of pain, I experienced, tasting strawberries, right? Eating cake, right? And these are things that we see as good. So that means I would be at dispositions to want to be in things that hurt my well-being, okay? Right? What if that was the case? And I'm saying for certain species, that probably was the case, right? And then they died, okay? And we've talked about this like for an hour, okay? But the problem is, the answer has to be made ad hoc, because if you're dead, then you cannot come to the assessment, okay? Now, it's and even then going back onto P1, like it still doesn't make any sense that we would have this loving God, because why would God give any of his species that he's perfectly good to, why would he give those species the suboptimal survivability instincts, right? Like that was another thing we touched on, is like, why do humans have a blind spot? Why do vertebrates have a blind spot and then invertebrates don't, right? Like it's just, I guess it's God's will, right? And God necessarily has his will, and then that's just it. Like it literally just makes no sense. Otherwise, yeah, psychophysical harmony does seem to exist, and I agree with that. But the idea that we have no explanation for it, at least any more explanation for it than the theist does, is absurd. Everything comes down to brute fact at some point, and then the theist will talk about God, but God is just his brute fact. And I yield my closing. Thank you.
But yeah, so the way I want to respond to that, I don't want to give a too long explanation, aside from the fact that the Ethan here himself said, we understand that, basically he's saying that because it's a biological necessity or else we would die. He's saying that that's the reason, but that's still conceding to premise two, because it's saying prior to learning the psychophysical laws, i.e. the fact that we need to feel pain when we touch fire, okay, that is a law. Prior to learning that, there's zero reason to assign substantially greater prior probability to harmonious psychophysical mappings than to comparably simple disharmonious mappings. And he disagrees because he uses a ad hoc reason, i.e. a consequence of what happens when we have harmonious ones versus disharmonious ones. And I'm saying, as the argument is saying, prior to learning that it was a biological necessity, there's no reason. So that's still in compliance with my premise two, and he already agrees with every other premise besides premise one, because he doesn't believe it's all good. Just appeal to intuition. That's like a whole other like debate, but that still doesn't, for the sake of argument, I granted it. That still doesn't remove the factuality from premise one. Premise two, as I said, I explained why. Again, he uses the biological necessity. It doesn't explain why it's a psychophysical necessity. He explains how it's a biological necessity. And that is a ad hoc reason. That is a consequence of psychophysical necessity. There's no reason aside from the ad hoc reason, aka the biological necessity. And then yeah, he concedes to premise three, premise four, and not the conclusion because of premise two, but I already explained that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right.
All right. Thank you all for your time. Yep.
Bye bye.
Yep. All right. Good talk, man.
Yeah, good talk. Bye bye.
Yep. Later. Jesus Christ. Yo, do you want to pop up on stage? I don't know if I'm like insane. Am I crazy? I feel like I'm actually insane.
Hello, hello. Yeah, no, I think he was just trying to confuse with like unspecific words. It doesn't feel like an actual argument
Yeah, I was like,
going through the thing.
like, imagine being like, you're alive. How do I know I'm alive? I am.
Yeah.
Oh, so you lived your living to prove that you're alive? That's ad hoc. Like, boy, what you mean? Like, of course, like I have to like.
It doesn't really make sense. Yeah.
Like it has to come after the fact, right? Like, I don't know, but like there have been philosophy debates where like this sort of thing happens. But I'm going to, because I don't like, he obviously wasn't like philosophically versed, and that's okay. But like there have been philosophical debates I've had with people who are versed, where like I am just doing a bad job of explaining, but genuinely I don't think that was one of them. And even then though, like if we're gonna talk about like ad hoc, that there's no like okay, ad hoc in a lot of arguments generally is fallacious, but if you're arguing something on like your ability to make arguments, like again, like, you know, are you alive? Oh, huh, you only know you're alive because you're alive. You're using the fact that you're alive to prove, you're using your senses to prove your senses.
I feel like it's just like
Yeah.
if it's like simulation theory, it's not really. It doesn't lead anywhere.
Yeah, dude. Were you here for P1?
Yes.
Dude, P1, that was a
I
blowout
think it was.
though.
I think that was good. Yeah.
P1 was a blowout.
He said it's not necessary for his P1 isn't necessary for an all-loving God. Like that's not part of his P1. But I believe he said that he was Muslim, and that's a
Yeah.
part of Islam.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't help his case in his his duality wouldn't apply to his own ethics.
I should have dude, I was this close to asking how old was Aisha. I was that
Yeah.
close.
I feel like
bro.
that's bad faith.
It is. That's why I didn't do it. It totally would have been
Yeah.
bad faith, bro. But like, if you just want to like aura farm, then you can do that.
Mhm.
That's what I love about like the three Abrahamic religions. Okay, if you're Christian, I mean like, there's so many contradictions. It's easy to blow someone the fuck out on that.
Mhm.
If you're Jewish, I mean you're Jewish, and everyone already hates you. And that's a descriptive statement, not a prescriptive statement. It's just how the world is right now. And if you're fucking Muslim, how old was Aisha? That's it. It's really funny.
I mentioned this earlier. I think one of the two main sects don't believe in that one hadith of Aisha saying that they were six. Like they specifically reject that hadith, but I don't know.
They have no like historical backing to that. Like all traditional like tales of Muhammad point to her being like 6, 7 years old. Okay. All fucking the texts point to her being around like single digit aged. Like literally, the only way you can come to that conclusion is if you make it up.
I feel like is there any others other than that one hadith of by Aisha?
What
I don't know the evidence about this. I haven't
about
researched this enough.
Aisha's age?
And
Yeah, no, I
other
mean
than
like
that one
I just look at the scholarly consensus on things, and then the scholarly consensuses are gonna obviously be built on whatever scriptures they have, the closest scriptures to the originals, you know, and also have some sort of like recollection of excuse me, some recollection of like traditions that are passed on probably through like writings and stuff based on the scriptures themselves.
I
And
see.
all of it points to her being on like Epstein
Probably end the
Island,
stream
bro.
by now, by the way.
Say again.
Oh, end the stream.
End the stream. Why?
The-
I'm gonna be
yeah.
doing the Epstein shit right after. So.
Oh. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. I was gonna ask, did you want to set up some like tech stuff? 'Cause I was
Oh.
watching your stream. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I want to kill myself because the internet outage was like,
Mhm.
God fucking damn it, bro. I was so fucking. I was like, how bad was the stream before my internet like stopped being?
It
Because
was
I was on my.
It was pretty stable apart from like the first part where like you were
Mm.
able to mute. You weren't able to like talk or like be heard.
Yeah.
And then
Oh.
after like right around when you said you were like switching from your hotspot to something else,
Mm.
I could see it was getting like a little choppy. Your video was like lagging a bit. That might be because of my internet because I'm in India. I'm traveling right now in India, but
Yeah. Oh, you're
I
in
don't know.
India right now?
Yeah, I'm coming back tomorrow
Oh,
to the
damn.
US.
What's the occasion?
I'm visiting grandparents.
Oh, cool. Nice. Dude, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm like genuinely molding over here. It's like, you use your senses to prove your senses. That's ad hoc, boy. Like, okay, you got me. You got me.
It's
You got me.
I don't like it.
But yeah, that was fun. What else do I need to do? Oh, let me get my other shit sorted out. I think I've got YouTube chat good. Let me make sure YouTube chat's good. Shit. There we go.
Also, you talked about like in a separate like setting of us not feeling pain correctly, but doesn't SEPA just isn't that just a 1-to-1
Not feeling pain correctly.
of like a bad mutation? Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it does exist. We do have that like currently. We can see that.
Yeah. And also, like, bro, those do happen. Like, things evolve traits that are not. Because when I said evolution isn't random, I think there's, and I can understand the confusion. The reason why evolution isn't random is because there's a necessary set of traits that an organism has to have in order to survive. Okay, so it's like,
Mhm.
you know, being able to get food, being able to breathe, or like whatever. Like there's some necessary